In the fabled land of Northern California, nestled in the Valley of Sacramento, two friends begin a journey to enlighten the world about their experience living life as a Xennial. But what is a Xennial, you may ask? If you wish to know, then follow them on their adventures.
Welcome to the Xennial Chronicles. This is James.
This is Mike.
And this, I believe, will be our 6th episode.
Woohoo, episode 6.
I'm correct in that, right?
Yeah, it's episode 6. Episode 5 was last week.
I'm not necessarily the best at counting all the time.
No, you're good.
Fantastic.
So far, good. We'll work on, once we get past 10, we'll see what kind of difficulties you may have here.
Oh my gosh.
So what's on the agenda for today, man?
Today's going to be a little bit different than what we've done so far. We're trying something a little new. I mean, we're only 6 episodes in, so just about everything we're doing is new.
Right.
But this goes kind of against the formula that we had discussed and we're kind of working with to an extent.
Okay. What's going on? What do you mean by that?
Well, normally we take a topic and relate it to our Xennial experience and give different examples, do some research.
Right.
My week's been a little busy, so research has been a little difficult for me. The play that we had mentioned before that I was in.
Yeah.
We had a lot of rehearsals this week trying to get things ready. We open on Friday.
Cool.
So yeah, that'll be the day after the podcast goes live.
Nice.
So it's crunch time right now, and we've had to do a lot more rehearsing, a lot more getting it in our head.
Okay.
I have Shakespeare seeping out of my ears at this point.
Okay. So this episode then is we're just gonna fly off the rails a little bit and see what happens, or I got no idea what the plan is, so we're gonna figure it out.
The plan is kind of to do almost a rant, discuss kind of a thing that annoys us or troubles us in this world, and it's something that I think many people have a difficulty with understanding, practicing.
Right.
So for the first half here, we're going to talk about something important enough that in the 60s, there was a song about it. Spelled the word out perfectly.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think so, yeah.
RESPECT. We're going to talk about respect. So with the respect, it's an interesting concept because many people think of it as there are just specific carved in stone things that are respectful, that are ways that you act that are respectful, things that you're supposed to do that are respectful, people that deserve respect regardless of anything else. And again, these things are carved in stones. These things are always the same. And I'm going to postulate that respect is more of a fluid thing than what we really realize.
Okay. What is you mean as far as what do you mean? I'm kind of lost a little bit. What are you talking about?
Well, I think that respect becomes defined generationally. Each generation has a different view of how to respect somebody, how to act towards somebody that's a respectful way, how to act in public around people that's in a respectful manner.
Okay, so you're talking about respect as far as being... So I'm kind of using your words a little bit. You're talking about using respect. Respect is essentially pliable based upon the generation that views it.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay, what's your point, man? What do you have any examples?
For instance, I wouldn't say everybody, but I'm sure many people that are listening have had interactions with older relatives.
Of course.
That these relatives kind of demand a level of respect from the younger generations.
Like respect of your elders, you mean?
Exactly.
Okay.
Based specifically on the concept that they are elder and therefore are deserving of your respect, regardless of the actions of the actual person.
Okay, you're saying respect that's just given and not earned, essentially, just based on age, or is it earned because of the age?
Actually, that's part of the concept.
Okay.
For many generations, the concept of respecting your elders based specifically on their age, based specifically on them being your elders,
right,
has been kind of the norm and the accepted thing.
Okay.
And I think we are seeing a little bit more of a shrug off of that than we've seen before.
Okay. As far as what do you okay, I think I know where you're coming from.
Okay.
I think I could kind of agree with that, but I'm not sure how to define that
Well, I think we're seeing
in a kind of like an easily understandable or relatively. You have a purpose to bringing it up. I'm curious what you mean by this stuff.
I think what we're seeing in the we hear about an increase now in disrespectful behavior from the younger generations. I think we hear about it even more now than we used to. I think it's always been kind of a thing.
I always hear about it. It's like every older generation, this is what's really funny because a lot of this happens with the millennial argument, right? That everybody talks about. They talk about this stuff and it drives me nuts because everybody older than millennial says that millennials are entitled and disrespectful, and even the millennials that play to that. Yeah. And there are some that just suck up to it, and it drives me nuts. There's this idea that millennials in general are entitled and disrespectful, and I'm not trying to drive it specifically to millennials as far as the conversation, but the issue is that it literally just sounds like old people being old people to me. It's just, it sounds like, kids these days don't know what respect is. Like, you just sound old. You don't sound like you're right. You just sound like you're old.
That I guess that's what I'm trying to get to I'm not being as clear as I should be with it.
Right.
That is showing how the shift in what is considered respectful is happening and is organic.
Right.
And you're right. It is old people are the elder in the population are constantly, the young people don't have respect. The young people don't see the respect in the same way. What I'm saying is, as these generations come, each generation comes down.
Right.
They're redefining what is to be respectful to other people, including to their elders.
Okay.
And
I think I know what you're talking about, but at the same time, I seem to. So I did read something about this, and I'm not trying to launch it to it because you know what? I'm going to hold off because I do have a perspective on this, and I think I want to hold off into it until a little bit later.
Okay.
I want to know what your perspective is on this, how it works, and I have an idea based on that really is. It has to do with the division of the perception of what respect is. Yeah. And that respect should be. I hate the concept of assumed respect.
Yeah,
to assume respect for someone because of how old they are or who they are or whatever. Yes. I don't like that. The respect itself, when people say this is also another gripe that I have. People that say respect is earned are the ones that demand respect without earning it.
Yes. Well, that
drives me nuts too.
That actually, keep that one, put a pin in that one, because our second half today is going to be another social issue like this respect thing. Okay. They tie in together. That one's about crazy hippos. Sorry, it's Hypocrisy. Am I pronouncing that right? Hypocrisy.
Oh,
that's the one. Hypocrisy. Yes.
Crazy hippos.
Crazy hippos.
I did not know where you were going with that. You literally said hypocrisy to me before we started the podcast.
I know.
Little bit of a clue on how we prepare for this crap.
So, but that's the thing is, I think we're seeing more in these generations since the Vietnam generation, since the boomer kids, who funny enough are now the elders who are demanding the respect out of nowhere, demanding the I'm an elder, so you should give me respect type of situation. We started seeing a major shift in the 60s, at least in this country. Obviously, these types of shifts have happened before in different cultures, in different countries it's usually during their revolutionary periods, because when you look back into the 60s and all the different things that happened culturally in the United States during that time, the Vietnam War, the Civil Rights Movement, all of these were movements that the people involved in them were considered disrespectful in the ways that they handled things. The people protesting the Vietnam War, disrespectful. The people that were protesting and fighting for civil rights, disrespectful.
They were also disrespectful, but disobedience and disrespect are two completely different things.
They are, but they are often couched together.
They are.
To try to illegitimize whatever is happening. Trying to make the people who are doing it seem to be at fault because they're not just the civil disobedience, they are being disrespectful. So that in our mind makes them wrong, makes them at fault for whatever is happening.
Totally.
And I think since that time, we've seen this shift in even more so than, because again, like you said, it's a universal thing probably for thousands and thousands of years that the older group of society sees the younger group as being disrespectful. And again, I think that's where you start seeing the shifts in what respect is defined as.
Totally.
Each generation defines it differently. I think we're seeing more of that shift, and because of the availability of media, because of the internet, because of all these things being in our face and being able to be seen,
right,
we're seeing more of this shift and having to acknowledge it in a way that it's not just turning into the older people becoming that older people of, oh, respect me because I'm an elder. They're not getting that opportunity as easily because they're being put on the spot in a way that we can see them trying to pull, and I say pull, that kind of rank of I'm older, you need to respect me. And the younger generation starting to say, no, we don't. We need to respect you for who you are as a person, what you've done, your accomplishments, the way that you handle yourself, and not for the fact that you happen to live to be 60 years old. Great. You live to be 60. That's fantastic. Are you a terrible person?
Exactly.
Were you terrible to your children, raising them, causing them all kinds of psychological issues?
Yes.
Are you
that's kind of where, that's one of the things I was going to go for. There's other ones too.
Are you still holding on to your racist, sexist feelings and thoughts that while in your time were considered normal, were still wrong then and are even still wrong now?
Yeah.
These are the things that
That's a big deal in this.
Yeah.
The issue of respect was one of the first things that we're in the middle of a major cultural shift right now.
Very much so.
That we have to keep in mind. People are starting to actually be held accountable for their actions in many instances. And this includes big and small.
Yes.
But the demanding of respect from people that base it on their age is being challenged all over the place because people want to see proof of their actual either accomplishments or something else.
Hold on. I want to take argument with the word accomplishments because recently I know that you had discussed something that you wanted to have a discussion about at some point or another, celebrities and people from our generation that we saw as almost celebrity heroes, celebrity important people that have in the last couple of years seen a downfall in their celebrity status because of their actual actions that they have done. Right. Even though they may have had the achievements that they have. Specifically, I will deal with all of those on a different podcast. Yeah. There's at least 3 that you mentioned to me. There's about 2 or 3 more that I can say for sure that we would discuss. But I specifically for this instance, I want to just quickly mention R. Kelly. Yeah. And his recent interview with, I think it was Gayle King. Yes. And the fact that
he lost his mind.
He did. And the thing that he tried to fall back on during that interview, and I've not seen the whole interview, I've just seen a couple of highlights and of course SNL's beautiful rendition of it. But one of the things he tried to fall back on during that interview was his accomplishments. Yeah, but your accomplishments have nothing to do with your violations. That's why I was wanting to.
You were kind of getting to that.
I was wanting to take up the word when you use the word accomplishments as the way of seeing the person. You specifically use that word, and that's why I was trying to go off of that word. Accomplishments aren't necessarily great. You've done all this great music. You've won these awards. Right. You've sold this many of whatever. You had this many years on TV as the #1 show,
so on and so forth. I get you.
Depending on the various things, accomplishments are one thing, and there's some respect to be given for the accomplishment, and that can be understood. But you have to separate the respect for the accomplishment from the respect for the person as a person. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can. I think I know where you're coming from, but yes, I agree with that. However, depending on, I think you're right, because respect for the person and who they are as a person is completely different from, now that I would consider instead of respect, that would be more reverence. That would be reverence for their accomplishments, but not necessarily holding respect for the person.
Okay, I see. You want to give,
and I don't want to get too into that conversation. That's not
here's
part
one
of
example.
this.
Here's one example. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
First of all, I want to say that Mike and I have personally discussed that we don't necessarily want to be overly political in our podcast.
Right.
We want to try to keep politics out, but I want to mention something about a former president. Former president. As a president, he was only president for 4 years. Okay. He was president before both of us were born. Okay. He's only president for 4 years. As a president, while he was able to broker a kind of sort of peace deal in the Middle East, as a president, he really didn't get much accomplished and didn't have a very good presidency.
Okay.
But as a human being...
You're talking Bush 1?
No, I was alive. We were both alive for Bush 1, sir.
Yeah.
No, I'm not talking Bush 1. I'm talking before.
Because I know he only served... I only served 4 years, right?
Before Bush 1 only served 4 years. I'm talking before we were alive. I'll get to the name in a minute.
Before we were... I'm so sorry. I think you... Don't worry. I apologize. I was still trying to think within our lifetime. I apologize. I missed that detail.
No, so before we were alive.
Yes, before we were alive. Gotcha.
Presidency, not very good. However, as a human being and the things he did after his presidency, all the work he's done in Africa, still to this day doing in Africa, to help disenfranchised and poor people in Africa, building homes for them, making sure that they have clean water.
I think I have a guess who this might be, and I really am not... Carter?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Jimmy Carter is an amazing human being. The things that he does as a human being. Also a president that...
He's now the oldest living president, by the way.
He is, and more importantly, still married.
Yeah.
Never cheated on his wife.
Yeah.
Never married anybody else.
Yeah.
Really stand-up guy.
Yeah.
Very, both him and his wife, extremely religious and extremely dedicated to their religious stuff.
But also extremely they're also extremely philanthropic. Like
exactly.
That's their big thing. And they've been like that since we've been alive.
Well, since his presidency was over. And that's the thing is, as a president, not very effective. Mainly, I think, because he was such a good person.
Right.
He didn't wade into the mire of politics and get his hands dirty.
And wasn't he? I don't know too much about. Like, I didn't really read up too much on Carter as a kid, but wasn't he kind of perceived of as kind of an idiot?
Well, he was a peanut farmer.
That doesn't mean anything.
Oh,
that's right.
He was a peanut farmer.
That was one of the big. Well, not getting into politics, I know he sold his peanut farm when he became president because he couldn't tie finances. I remember hearing about that. Yeah.
Yes, he made sure he didn't have any connection to it.
That was constantly brought up in all the other stuff that's happening today that I'm not going to get into. It's like saying, I like saying, it's really kind of funny that we're like, we're not going to get into any of this. And then we just keep slowly diving into it. Let's move on.
Ever so slightly. But anyway, I'm just saying, Carter, great human being, not good at being president. Great human being. The things he's done as a human, I have a lot of respect for this man.
Gotcha.
For the wonderful things that he does. But as president, sadly, he wasn't very good at what he did there. Probably never should have been president. The only upside of him having been president is the fact that it opened the doors for him to be the person that he is today. And that's an amazing thing. He took what he got out of being president, the notoriety, the name recognition, and turned that into something beautiful and elegant. And even to this day, he is just a wonderful human being.
Cool.
And so that's a person that you show respect to, not because he's older, not even because he once sat in the office of the president.
Okay. Now I get your point.
But because he is a decent human being. He's a good human being. He does good things for others. There's your respect.
Prime example, respect earned.
Exactly.
That is respect earned over respect given. That makes a lot of sense to me. Even if he was or wasn't good at the one thing that he's technically known for out here, what he became known for past that earns respect.
Yes.
That I understand completely.
And that I think is we're again, I'm sure that throughout many cultures, you had the younger generations that were wanting people to earn respect before they were giving the respect to them. I think it's more visible now, just like everything is more visible now.
Right.
With the media attack that we have, with the connectivity that we have to each other.
I like that term, media attack, because that's kind of we're all dealing with that right now.
It's just 24/7, always available.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's been like that for like 20 years, but
that's again,
not on the it's something that feeds people in the middle of the current climate, you know.
Well, and it's not just the thing about it is this definitely ties into our Xennial situation.
Yes.
When we were kids, news only went from a certain time of day till a certain time of day, and then you were done. not only is it a 24/7 news cycle now,
Yeah.
but each individual has the opportunity to basically be a newsmaker.
Yeah.
Each of us has that capability, because all it takes is taking a video and posting it online.
Yeah.
Doing an opinion and posting it online.
Well, that's literally what we're doing right now. We're just sharing our opinion about what's going on. Like, that's all you have to do now. You need a couple of microphones and something to record it with.
Exactly. And suddenly
throw that stuff up on the internet on your phone. Like, you could totally do that.
And that's where the attack comes in.
Yes.
For sure. And that's where the visibility comes in. We're seeing more of it, and it's not something that, as the generation gets older and then they become the ones demanding respect just for their age.
Yes.
They can't,
and we will
they can't
do
shove it. They can't show. Well, some of us will.
Yeah,
some of us will.
Many of us will. And I think that, I don't know. I think it's too early to tell, but I think I kind of feel a shift where that's starting to dissolve a little bit.
And that's what I'm saying. We're seeing some of that, because we can't go and do that.
Yeah.
And it be swept under the rug anymore.
Yeah.
Because the rug's been pulled up completely.
Yeah.
We can't make any of that stuff disappear.
Right.
And that's the difference. You can't have anymore the one drunk uncle that literally spouts off racist stuff all the time, that talks about how, he'll say things like the gays in reference to people that are homosexual.
It's a weird terminology to just use an action to determine. I mean, they're not like a construction worker. They're not like to determine somebody by something they do that's not even their job is super discriminatory. It
is. And the thing is,
and it's also disrespectful. Going back to the subject at hand,
it is. And the thing is, now you have your millennials and your even the emerging Zs, the Generation Z past the millennials, that are filming their drunk uncle doing this and posting it on Facebook or YouTube.
And you know what? They're getting two reactions from it. They're getting reactions from people that think that shit's funny.
And they're getting people saying, "Oh, that's disrespectful to put your uncle up on there like that without him knowing."
Either screw whether or not he knows. People think it's disrespectful for him saying what he's saying.
No, there is still even a subset, and it's usually the older people that are. It's disrespectful.
How dare you?
How dare you put your uncle out like that? How dare you do that to your family? You should respect. And here's another one: respecting your family.
This is a hypothetical situation. I've never actually seen that personally, but yeah, people do that stuff. They do.
But there's the other thing of respecting your family regardless of their actions.
Right.
It's your family. You should respect them. No, I can say with certainty, and to my siblings that may or may not be listening to this, there have been many times that my siblings and I have had to stop talking for a little while because one or the other of us have done something that would be considered disrespectful to the other, and had to not communicate for a while until we were able to be respectful to each other.
Yeah.
And that's just, you can't always be respectful to family necessarily. Sometimes you need to not be.
Yeah, totally. Lapse of respect in the family dynamic. And normally that starts with a disrespectful action on one side. Not even disrespect based on somebody's opinion or anything like that. That's completely out the wayside a lot of the time. But I understand what you're talking about. Like I've dealt with that too.
Yeah.
I think we all have at some point.
Now I think
I do. Yeah. Before we wrap, I do want to say something here that I feel that should be discussed.
I have one more point as well, so go ahead, hit yours.
Okay, so my main point is that in the issue of things like civil rights,
yes,
there's two different sorts of respect that I notice, especially when it has to do with a lot of people that I know of are starting to harbor a disrespect for law enforcement and service people in that type of service industry, and there's also people in the retail service industry that don't necessarily garner a lot of respect, especially from a lot of older generations that didn't have that kind of experience.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But that's kind of by the wayside. My personal opinion on when it comes down to respect and respect being earned and how that ties into respect for law enforcement and that kind of stuff. There's two different types of respect that a lot of people tend to misinterpret with each other.
Okay.
Okay. In the terms of civil rights or people that are essentially disenfranchised groups.
Okay.
Black people, minorities, LGBTQ, that kind of stuff. There is a lack of respect instead of for their accomplishments or for instead of for their accomplishments or for their authority. Like, respect for authority is very different from respect for humanity.
Okay.
And one of the main points that I'm getting at is there are people that deal with issues of respect when it comes down to certain members of law enforcement.
Okay.
One of the issues that has been not really well discussed, especially in a society dynamic, when it comes down to who I was talking about, essentially disenfranchised groups, and especially when it has to do with law enforcement or people established in government, is that a lot of the conversation right now is due to a rift in respect for authority not given because of respect for humanity not given.
Okay.
So you're saying.
Let me see if I can sum this up to an understandable level. You're saying that you see a lack of respect for the authority, i.e., police officers.
Yes.
Or any
government workers, that kind of stuff. Like we've had that happen.
And you say that you think that a possible cause of that is that the institutions that they work for don't have a respect for humanity.
Not the institutions themselves,
but the individuals.
But this has to do with the individuals that work within those institutions a lot of the time. Like, say, let's just throw it out there, and I'm not trying to be essentially polarizing, but there are racist, bigoted police officers that do exist.
There are, yes.
Are they all police officers? Absolutely not.
Well, no, and I can say from personal experience that when you're focusing on any group of any kind,
yes,
you're going to see more often the ones that are problematic than the ones that are not problematic.
You will, and that has to do. That's inherent in that. Yes, that's true. That's also inherent in the job in certain instances. But the difference is that, let's say this, for the sake of argument, if a police officer says, respect me and I will respect you, or a military officer says, respect me and I'll respect you, or maybe an elder that says, respect me and I will respect you, a lot of the time, there are two different types of respect that are being talked about. Those people that state that respect is earned, that demand respect from another younger or another younger group or minority
without giving a reason beyond the demand.
Without giving a reason beyond the demand, are asking for a respect of their authority, and in return, they will respect that person's humanity. Those are completely separate from each other. And that is one major issue I have with the word respect in general, because it's being tossed around for two different types of respect, and they're not being discerned between when you're actually talking to somebody in a position of authority.
Actually, this ties
in many people in positions of authority. Now, this is not the case with all. Let me kind of make sure that this is established in my side of the argument here.
Mike here is trying to say that he actually does have respect for police. He's not saying that he doesn't.
Yeah, I'm not saying that I don't have it.
I'm helping him with that clarity here.
Yes, thank you. That's exactly where I was going. I do.
He don't want to get pulled over.
No, that's I'm not talking. No, well, that's fear, and that's not even part of the conversation. But I have respect for that authority. I also have respect for that. But people that do not get respect, that do not receive the respect for their humanity first, have an issue with respect for authority.
Oh, definitely, I can see that.
Because if you don't have that, why should you give that?
Well, and that actually ties into what my point was going to be.
Oh yeah,
you're taking it to the level of again, like a government official, police officer, that kind of authority.
I'm looking at people in positions of authority that don't give respect for humanity.
Well, I'm going to take it to the most basic level of a person in authority not giving the respect of humanity as you're describing it.
I think I know where you're going, but continue.
Where do you think I'm going?
Parent to child.
Exactly.
Yep.
And this I think is where the root of it starts.
Yes.
If the parents are of the mindset. Now tell me how many times you heard this. I say no because I'm the adult, or because I'm the parent and I say so, because I'm the mom or I'm the dad and I say so.
Oh yeah, because I said so.
Yep, because I said so. There's even a movie called that. Yeah, Diane Keaton, Piper Perabo, I don't know. There's a bunch of different people.
Bunch of actresses and actors.
Yeah, I could probably list for days and days of the actors.
Yeah, totally.
If I wanted my brain to work that way. Anyway, I've seen the movie way too many times. But that's the thing is the parent automatically assumes I'm the authority figure. Now, yes, I agree. The parent is the authority figure, especially coming from a parent.
Yes.
I am the authority figure. But that doesn't mean that I get to run roughshod over the person I have authority over.
Right.
That doesn't mean that I get to be a dictator over the person that I have authority over.
Yes.
Part of the dynamic of the relationship of me being the parent and having that authority, the purpose of having that is not to lord over the child, is not to control and manipulate them.
Yes.
The purpose of that is to help them live through life, help them become, hopefully, functioning adults that can show kindness and respect to others. So if I'm going to teach them about respect, if I'm going to expect them to respect me, I, as the authority, need to respect them first.
You have to be the example of what respect means to people.
Exactly. You can't demand it without being the example of it.
Cool.
And I think this comes from the very, very basic. And I think that's part of the cultural shift we're seeing. I think at times maybe some of the current parents are going a little overboard with the respect that they show their kids. They let their kids control a little too much. But I think that showing the children that they themselves are respected gives them the ability to respect other people. Teaching them that their opinions, their thoughts are valid. Teaching them that their humanity, their self is valid. Yes. Is a way to get them to understand that other people are valid, other people's opinions, other people's thoughts, and more importantly, the respect for another person is valid.
Absolutely. I think that's the big argument that's happening right now.
I would say that's a good connection of it.
Yeah.
And again, I think we've gone culturally, there's a little bit of overboard with it, but at the same time, the parents still aren't shifting with the idea. I'll use one of our original examples back in our first show,
right?
The telephone, and the fact that our modern millennials are constantly on their phones texting,
right?
Constantly on their phones doing stuff, and their parents get angry with them and think while they're trying to, I'm a parent having discussion with my kid, they're on their phone,
right,
texting back and forth, and I get frustrated because in my mind, respect is you're looking at me while I'm talking to you,
right?
You're paying attention to me so that I know that you're paying attention to me.
Right.
But in the mind of this child, this is how they communicate. They're texting to one person while listening to and communicating with another person. It doesn't require the eye contact. It doesn't require the same level that the parent is demanding. Yeah. So the question is, who is responsible for changing their expectations? The child or the parent?
That is a really good question. As someone who's not a parent, I can't necessarily answer that.
Well, the thing that I would say is the initial thought that the parents are going to think is, it's the child needs to change.
No, the child needs to change.
Why? Well, my question would be why.
That's why I feel like I can't answer the question because.
Well, no, hold on.
Okay.
Let's dispel this myth real quick.
Yeah.
Even though we may be running a little long on this side of things, I want to dispel this myth. Just because you don't have children. Doesn't mean that you don't get to have at least some kind of an opinion on what to do and how to work with children. Now,
interesting.
Now, what that does mean is, unless you are solicited, and this actually should go whether you have children or not, unless you're solicited for advice about raising children. Like if I was to ask you, Mike, what's your advice about this? This is my scenario with my kid.
Well, now you're
asking.
Give me
your advice.
Okay.
If you're solicited for advice, then you give it. If you're not solicited, even if you are a parent, you have your own kids, don't comment on the way another parent deals with their things. Right. Unless they ask you to do it. Because guess what? You won't want that comment given to you. Don't give it to somebody else. Let them do their own thing. If they're screwing up being a parent, there's really not a whole lot you can do in that situation.
Public service announcement here. This is an example of respect.
This is, you respect the other person. You respect the other person's right to sadly screw up their job of being a parent. There's really not much you have a right to do or say in the situation. Okay. Unless they're actually physically or mentally damaging and harming their child. Then that's a whole different scenario.
Okay. So then so you are asking me my opinion on this situation?
Yeah.
At this point, what would be? There's two reasons why I don't feel like would be able to answer the question. Being that first part is out of the window, this is my opinion on it. I am also not quite sure who needs to actually change because it depends on the place where the parent is pulling that authority from. If they're pulling that authority because they feel that the kid needs to mold their lives around the parent's expectations about how they should act, that is wrong. That's not it.
Okay.
Okay. If the parent feels that this is truly a lesson in how this child should communicate with the rest of the world, put their phone down and talk to another peer face to face, then that is the place that it should come from.
Okay. There's
two places where that demand can come from.
Perfect. Then let's say it's the latter. Let's say it's your second idea.
Okay.
So then it would be on the parent to actually sit down and have the discussion as to why they are doing this.
Yes, you have to explain the action and find out why that's the case. You need to let that kid know, hey, man, you got to put the phone down when you're talking to somebody because
they need to know that you're paying attention to them. Because you need to know that
other people are not going to respond to you not looking at them while you're talking.
Fantastic. What you've done then by doing that is you've shown the respect for the kid to explain to them the reasons why you're being this way. You're not just resting on your authority of, I'm the parent and I say you need to do it this way. You're explaining to them why. Here's a really good example of that type of parenting. I was like most teenage boys in that when I got a girlfriend, there was only kind of one thought on my mind when I was thinking about my girlfriend.
All right.
And I won't go into any kind of detail, but I'm sure any teenage boy and any adult boy that was a teenage boy and any girl that dated a teenage boy knows what was on my teenage boy mind.
Right.
Well, my parents were considerably worried about that. Not only because the girlfriend that I had at the time had a dad who probably wouldn't have been too keen on any of those things happening and him finding out. I might have been facing the end of certain weapons pointed at me, and that's not extrapolation. He almost close to threatened that type of thing.
I've always hated that concept too. It's dad sitting on the porch, pulsing a shotgun. It just sounds that's going to go into the hypocrisy section next. Trust me. Oh yes, sir. Hey. But here's the thing. My parents sat me down and they said, listen, we know what's in your mind. We know where you're thinking. I found out years later that there was actually a story that my dad had that where he literally had a girlfriend of his father pull her out of the car while they were sitting in the car kissing in front of the house, or they may not have been kissing. They may have just been sitting in front of the car. Okay.
Girlfriend's dad pulled her out of the car and told my dad to never see her again. Interestingly enough, that's who he's married to now. His third wife. Funny story.
Whoa.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, funny story.
Talk about full circle, man.
Very much so. Very much so. I didn't find out until around the time that he got back together with her after my mother had passed away and they were getting married. I found out that story.
Wow.
But anyway, my parents sat me down and said, listen, we know what's in your mind. We know what kind of things you're thinking about doing because this is what teenage boys think about doing.
Right.
We're going to tell you that if you're going to do it, first of all, make sure you're protected. Make sure you don't, you're doing whatever you can to try not to have a kid because you don't want to have a kid when you're a teenager.
Right.
Because that really messes up anything else you're going to try to do as a teenager.
Right.
If you're going to have a kid, you need to pay attention to your kid.
Right.
And there's that. Then here's the other part. By the legal definitions of things, if you do that and her parents are not happy about it, they can file charges against you.
Yeah.
Not only will those charges affect you, but they could affect us as your parents.
Yeah.
So what you're doing by doing that,
you're putting us at risk by doing that.
You're putting multiple people at legal risk of doing this. So we would really prefer that you didn't put us at legal risk to do this as much as you want to do it. It was explained to me in such a fashion that I will fully admit that I only listened to all of it. I only kind of took some of it to heart because I still would have tried to do the things.
Right.
But at the same time, it was an interesting lesson in the fact that my actions were going to have repercussions. And it was told to me in such a way that it wasn't talking down to me.
Right.
It was explained to me that, look, if you do these things, these are all the troubles that can come about from it.
Right.
These are all the things that can happen. We want to, and it wasn't, you can't do them. It's, we want to caution you that if you do this, this is all the things that will happen. And nobody's going to come out of this in a good situation if it rolls this way.
Right.
And it really made me think more about, I was empowered. I still would have made a bad decision,
right,
but at least I was empowered to make the decision myself. I wasn't having somebody sit over me like a dictator. They talked to me as if I was a human being. They gave me They gave me the information truthfully.
Yep.
And I translated that later in my life dealing with, I had to deal with a very sensitive legal issue with an extended family member. And as we were in the process of the legal issue, every single day that we were going through the process of it, I would go over with that person bit by bit. We're doing this. This is what could happen as a result. This is who would be mad. This is who would be causing problems. These are all the problems. Do you still want us to go through with this situation? Every single day, I went through that with the person just so that they knew what was going on. Everything was transparent. Everything was open.
Yeah.
And I think it made a huge difference in that person because I have a really good relationship with them now.
Right.
I don't want to release names or gender or anything like that, just so that the person knows, if they're listening to this, they know what I'm talking about because we talk about it at different times. But that honesty, that respecting of them as a person,
right,
that earned me respect from them. And that earned me respect. That made it so that I respected my parents and that they wanted to be honest and truthful with me. They wanted to give me all the details. They didn't just tell me, no, you can't do this because I'm your parent. They said, no, you don't want to do this because it's going to cause you all these problems, and we'd rather not you have these problems or us.
Yeah.
And that's where the respect really starts. The parents have to make the difference. And if the parents do make that difference to respect their kids, that's where they can teach the kids properly how to respect others.
Again,
and how to change that.
That comes down to those are prime examples of this: your parents respecting your humanity.
Yes,
and in turn, you respect their authority and their guidance.
And it teaches
just as elders in general.
It teaches you to respect other authority. I can say that for the most part, I am a very respectful person of authority, and I think that has to do with what my parents instilled in me by showing me respect first.
Legit.
So, okay, we ran a little long, but we're going to take a break now. And next we'll come back.
Maybe shorten the section at the back end.
We'll do a short bit on hypocrisy.
Cool.
See y'all later.
Hey friends, this is Mike from the Xennial Chronicles reminding you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Xencron, spelled Xenchron, to keep up to date on all things TXC. And please check out our official website, thexennialchronicles.com, or if that's too much to type, Xencron.com. Thanks again for listening, and now, back to the show.
And we are back.
Yo.
Apologize already for the length of the first, not really the first half, more like a first 2/3.
Yeah, seriously, right? It's all good. Hey, we had a lot to say. What can you do, right?
We did, because respect is an important issue.
It is.
And that leads us into the second issue.
Gotta have the respect.
Yes, gotta have the respect.
Gotta have the respect.
Unless you're Rodney Dangerfield, and then you get no respect. Mm-mm. But this leads into
I've
the
got
second
a terrible
issue.
Rodney Dangerfield. I can't do Rodney Dangerfield.
So do I. We're talking now, of course, about something that I think leads into the respect, and that is hypocrisy. Now, anybody who is listening and knows me knows that hypocrisy is something that I have major issues with, and I will start a fight pointing out when somebody is being hypocritical. Interestingly, as a result,
would you consider this a major pet peeve?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. And it's,
I can understand that. Hypocrisy sucks.
There's been an interesting reaction to that.
Oh.
And that is, if I say anything that may be deemed hypocritical, the people that I normally will talk to about it that they'll say hypocritical things on a regular basis without even thinking about it.
Right.
If I say something that even has the slight color of being hypocritical,
oh, they're like calling you. Ooh.
Oh, they pounce as quick as possible. And then what's funny is they get really mad with my reaction, because when they pounce on me, normally when I'm pointing out something that's hypocritical that somebody says, they get defensive and angry.
Right.
When it's pointed out that I've done or said something hypocritical, there's two reactions.
Right.
One is either I seriously was making a joke and you really need to get a sense of humor.
Right.
Or I'm like, oh, you're right. I am being hypocritical in that. I need to change my view. And that makes them actually even more mad, because they think they're going to get me. They're going to get a, I gotcha moment.
Like they're trying to get an emotional reaction.
Yeah. They want me to get
you're
mad.
Just like, oh yeah, huh? Oh, okay. And then you stop the conversation like,
yeah, I turn it into a moment of self-discovery of like, oh crap, you know what? I am being hypocritical, and frankly, I hate it when people are hypocritical, including myself.
Therefore, I must change my opinion.
And admittedly, I will.
Wait, what? You're just giving up? Yeah,
yeah.
Because that's what you should do.
That is what you should do when you realize that the mindset that you have is really not an appropriate mindset to have. You should be able to shift it and correct your course and focus.
Yeah, oh, wait, you mean you have to be like a decent human being that
Yeah, a human being that's willing to change and understand that the world
your
is
opinion when you realize that it's wrong.
Yes, and that the world is an ever-changing thing, and the ways of the world are an ever-changing thing.
Yeah, totally.
But hypocrisy is the issue, and I think the thing that is the biggest issue for me about hypocrisy is, again, we're going back to the people in authority, because that really helps define relationship. We have so much people in authority over people that are, not in authority, I guess. Best way, I can't think of a better way to describe it, but you have the dynamics within the relationship. We talked about the respect dynamic, but then there's the hypocrisy dynamic, in that the people in authority will demand of the people beneath them a certain set of behaviors and a certain set of rules that they themselves don't have to follow, that don't apply to them.
Okay.
And I think that's probably one of the most basic forms of hypocrisy that we see.
Okay.
Good example.
Yeah.
You see many times, specifically there was that swimmer, I forget which college he was at here in California. He was a swimmer, got arrested for sexual assault on another college student, and they tried to argue that because he was, one, rich, and two, an athlete, a student athlete, that any kind of conviction on this would be really, really harmful to his future as an athlete. And so he's supposed to abide by a different set of rules. I wish we had video for this. We're not.
I know. I should have.
The look
that,
the
look on my face is just, what the hell does that have to do with anything?
And arms splayed to the side.
Yeah.
They're still splayed to the side right now.
I totally am. It's just, come on, man.
Or the
that would be very dangerous. Well, he should have thought about that before he committed sexual assault.
Well, or there's the word. Have you heard of the word affluenza?
Affluenza.
No, have you heard of this?
Instead of influenza, it's affluenza.
It's actually supposed to be
where
a condition.
His affluence affects his future?
No, his affluence affects whether he should be held accountable for crimes that he does.
Oh, it's like a mental illness.
Yes, it's like I'm so rich that I don't understand.
I've never heard that term, and that is brilliant.
There was, I forget the case where that became a major thing. It's not the same case. It was a different case. It was a kid that crashed a car or something, killed people or injured people in the crashing of a car. And they argued that his affluence, the fact that he was rich from a rich family, he did not have a normal understanding of right and wrong. He didn't have a normal moral compass of things.
This sounds a lot like the whole Brock Turner thing too.
Which one's Brock Turner?
Brock Turner wasn't the swimmer. Brock Turner was, I believe, he was a runner. But
are you sure?
He was.
Are you sure he wasn't the swimmer?
He was caught by a couple of bicyclists.
Okay.
Like, literally raping somebody next to a dumpster.
We'll make sure whether Brock Turner is the same person I'm talking about.
He was caught raping somebody on a bike trail and was put under citizen's arrest by a couple of bicyclists.
Yeah.
And he ended up, if I remember right, getting convicted, but he got a reduced sentence because of his affluence, or at least that's what the argument is.
I think either I'm mistaken in that he's a swimmer, or Mike's mistaken in that he's a runner. We are talking about that guy. We may be talking about the same guy. I don't know.
I mean, there are multiple examples of what's going on.
Yes.
With it.
But
there's been a lot of those. But affluenza, that's good.
It's a thing. Google it, people.
Dude, totally.
Try to do a link on the Facebook page to the term. But anyway, this idea that people at a different social caste, be it rich, be it celebrity,
right?
Be it even again in the dynamic of the parent-child relationship,
right?
These people that have some kind of reason to be considered above in status,
right?
The other person,
right?
Suddenly they're no longer assigned the same rules, the same behavior.
They don't need to be held the same kind of accountable for those actions and all that.
And this is where the hypocrisy comes. Again,
this is where we're going.
The old people who can say whatever they want to, and again, demand the respect for whatever they want to, but their kids or their grandkids can't say what they want to.
Right.
Because that's considered rude or disrespectful. Well, why isn't it just as rude for the old person to be saying the things?
Totally.
And that's where, again, this is a pet peeve of mine, because you can't, I wouldn't say you can't, you shouldn't hold somebody else to a standard of behavior that you are not willing to hold yourself to as well.
Right.
And that is, I can say that has caused me to have fewer friends in my life
right.
than what I'm sure some other people have, because I am fairly strict on a standard of behavior. An example for you. You see at many times, especially recently, various political people being caught in scandals of cheating on their spouses.
Right.
Celebrities being caught in those types of scandals. Celebrities or political people caught in extortion or murder scandals at different points in time.
Oh yeah. That the book is rife with that. Our history books essentially are rife with that. And those examples.
And depending on their specific status, who they are, what groups are behind them, will depend on what kind of consequences they have.
Totally.
For the situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to me, I mentioned this one to you before. You're watching, say, a TV show, right?
Right.
And you have a couple on the TV show, and like one of the couple cheats on the other one.
Okay.
Now, the one that's the cheater still retains some of their friends, even after the cheating happens.
Of course.
And the one who was cheated on also retains some of the friends, but obviously there's tension, there's issues and whatnot.
Oh, of course.
Now, so here's my thing. I have a moral code of behavior for things. It's my own code. Nobody's given it to me. I've gotten it from, I'm sure that it's influenced by all the different things that I've experienced in my life, all the different people.
Right.
And I'm sure major ideologies have influenced it to some degree, but I don't necessarily subscribe to anyone in particular that says this is what made my code. It's just, I can say with certainty that the person who is the cheater, if I was friends with, say, this couple, even if the person that's the cheater was my initial friend in the situation,
right?
And I don't want to use specific examples because I don't want to put anybody specifically on the spot unless you feel that that's appropriate. Is it appropriate for me to put specific people?
I'm not sure. No.
Then I won't. Okay. I won't use specific people.
Okay.
But if I was friends long term, more so with the person that was the cheater than the other person, I can say I wouldn't remain friends with that person after they cheated.
Totally.
I would that would be like a deal breaker for friendship with me, because to me that falls outside of the moral code.
Okay, I can understand that.
Same token, I hold myself to the same thing. I've been married for 18 years.
Right.
Or soon to be 18 years. Give or take a couple months.
Right.
My wife and I have been together for 19 years.
Right.
As a couple. I can say with certainty, I've never cheated. I've never done anything close to cheating.
Right.
My wife has never cheated on me.
Okay.
That would be, I would expect every single one of my friends, and there's not many, but I would expect every single one of my friends to turn on me if I ever cheated on my wife. I would actually be, I can say, like you, as my friend.
Right.
If you were not angry and didn't want to talk to me after cheating on my wife, unless there was some real weird exigent circumstances for me doing it. I mean, there's got to be some weird hardcore explanation.
Right.
And I'm talking full on cheating, not like my wife flat out said I could sleep with other people and it's all okay with her and I. That's a different story because that's in our relationship and our own personal thing.
Right.
But I actually straight up cheated on my wife.
Right.
I would be disappointed in you if you did not say, dude, I can't deal with you anymore. I can't be your friend anymore. I would actually be disappointed in you because I would feel like that should be a deal breaker, even for you in our friendship. Now, I'm not trying to dictate how you should feel and how you should react because I don't want to be telling you how you should be.
Right.
But at the same time, I'd be like, you didn't respect the person that you thought I was enough.
Right.
To not be angry at me, angry to the point of not wanting to talk to me anymore.
Right.
Because that's, again, if I expected you to be okay with me cheating, but I wouldn't be okay with other people cheating, that's hypocrisy at the base level.
Yeah, totally.
And that's the thing is you can't ask somebody to have, again, a different set of rules than you, to follow a stricter moral code than you do yourself. In fact, in some ways, I think you definitely need to give other people more of a chance to not follow your moral code because they have their own.
Okay, so I have a question.
Please do.
How do you define what that line is? I understand that you have your own personal moral code behind this.
Yeah. But
if that's the case, trying to adhere to your moral code and friends that break that moral code and...
Well, that's now. Okay, I think I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, I'm just curious about what is your...
I have to be flexible in the sense of that again. This is part of it. I have my moral code. I have to be flexible in the sense that you're going to have, you, Mike, are going to have your own moral code.
Right.
We stay friends because I think the majority of that lines up.
Right.
And there are some things that are full-on deal breakers, like the cheating.
Right.
Like killing babies.
Okay.
Yeah, those type of things.
We'll take it to the nuclear option here.
I have a tendency to do that. But
how Socratic of you.
Yes, thank you. But the point being, there are some things that are complete deal breakers.
Right.
There are other things that, like, okay, I'm just going to let those things go because they're not that important. Those aren't high points for me. And then there are still others that, like, if these things happen, you and I need to sit down and have a conversation because this is making, this specific thing maybe makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I can say we've had a few of those conversations in our past where there's been things that either I've done or you've done or has been done, within a group of things that have made me uncomfortable, morally questionable. And we've sat down and talked and worked through.
Yeah. Same with
those
me.
Specific issues.
I've shared that. And when we work with those issues, that's fine, and that's actually part of establishing. That's part of establishing the foundation of our friendship with each other.
But here's the thing. Here's where the hypocrisy comes in.
Okay.
If I say that I expect you to say here's another one that's kind of a deal breaker for me.
Okay.
I try to stay away from people who wantonly and regularly flout laws, break laws.
Right.
Do things that are illegal.
Just constantly are breaking the law.
Yeah. Regardless of what the law is about specifically, just constantly breaking the law. Now, if I said I don't want to be around you because you're breaking the law all the time, or I don't want to be associated with you because you're breaking the law all the time,
right?
But I'm doing it myself,
right?
There's a hypocrisy.
Yes.
I can't ask you to not do that.
Yeah.
If I'm going to do it as myself.
Yeah. I would try to bring up a point or a counterpoint, but there isn't really much of one that I've got. I agree completely with what you're talking about.
Another example here. You and I used to have a work dynamic back when we first met, where I was technically the boss. I was the assistant manager.
Right.
You were the customer service representative, CSR.
Right. At
the time, and I actually made it a point to schedule you almost every night that I worked.
Yeah. Because you also wrote the schedule.
I wrote the schedule, so that helped.
Right.
You were also my roommate, so I made sure that you were. I tried to make sure that you had enough hours that you could pay your portion of rent.
Did we ever carpool?
Didn't quite. I think we did at different points.
Okay.
Although I think I had to go in earlier than you because you worked like from 8 to midnight or something like that, and I had to be at work at like 5.
Yeah,
so I don't
that's
think
right.
It always worked out
because I was on like the little 4-hour shifts.
Yeah, because you were just a CSR,
and
I tried to give you as much hours as possible to try to make sure you had money for rent. That didn't work out, but.
Did we talk about that last episode?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, okay.
But part of the reason that I had scheduled you to work with me is because we had worked out part of the working relationship to where I made clear what you needed to do for your duties for working.
Right.
The things that I needed you to do during the night. But I also never asked you to do anything during those that I wouldn't be willing to do myself.
Totally.
And I never asked you to be working your butt off during doing everything and me to be sitting down doing nothing.
No, because that's totally hypocritical.
Exactly.
It's not about sharing the labor. It's the fact that this comes down to the other example that we're talking about. I think it comes down to leading by example. It's a parenting thing.
Yes, it's a respect thing. I respected what you were able to do, and in fact, there were multiple times I would even ask you, which things do you want to do tonight? Which do you want me to take care of? Now, I could have just, as the assistant manager, said, "You go do this," and I'm going to go do this because this is what I want to do.
Right.
I instead tried to find the things that you felt were best for you to get done.
Right.
And what I felt was I could handle.
Right.
I know a lot of the times I would have you do the various closing duties and the away from the register duties.
Yeah.
And I would try to make it so I didn't have to call you back to work the register. You could focus on those.
Yeah.
And not have to be distracted, which to me is one of the most annoying things when you're trying to work in any retail establishment. Totally. If you're given a project to do and you keep having to be pulled away from the project to help out because somebody else can't carry the load.
Yep.
Well, I knew that back then on the register, I was going to move as fast or faster than anybody else in the store.
Right.
I could keep the people going, and I was the manager, so if they were going to complain to anybody, they were going to complain to me.
You were right there. Yeah.
But you could
thereby
be out,
solving a multitude of problems.
Exactly. And you could be out doing the things that needed to be done.
Totally.
That empowered you to do your job.
Right.
That gave me the ability to do my job, and it made the relationship work where I don't remember there being much in the way of tension when we were working together.
No, we established a system. We were just doing our thing.
And like you said, this falls back into the parenting thing.
Yeah.
You can't. Now, let me preface this. Children are under the age of 18, under the age of 21, obviously. So there are laws in place for the things that they are and are not allowed to do.
Right.
A 16-year-old is legally not allowed to be drinking.
Right.
or smoking
Right.
or joining the military. But still,
Right.
they're not allowed to be doing these things.
Right.
So there is still the legal precedence taken into it.
Right.
But tell me something. Again, you're not a parent.
Right.
But at 16, did you have drinks?
Actually, my parents were really good about keeping me from that
Okay,
kind
so
of stuff.
you got
I didn't
lucky
really
to be
do. Yeah, I didn't do much about drinking. And as a matter of fact, back when you met me,
Yeah.
I hated drinking.
Okay.
I didn't drink.
Actually, back when we met, I didn't drink either.
Yeah. I was not a drinker. I wasn't into drinking, and I didn't get into drinking until I turned close to 21.
Funny story. First time I ever drank alcohol away from my parents' home, first time I ever did,
Right.
was actually the day that I met my wife. I met her. She went home for the night. I was staying at my buddy's house.
Right.
I decided I was going to stay the evening. He was older, so he wanted to go get something to drink, some alcohol.
Yeah.
I was 20 at the time. Or, wait, mathing. I was 19 at the time. I was 19. I was going to be turning 20.
Right.
I was 19. I actually called my parents on the phone and told them, I'm staying at so-and-so's house tonight. He wants to go get some stuff to drink. Is it okay if I stay here and drink? At 19 years old, I called my parents and asked their permission to drink. And you know why I asked their permission?
Because you respected what.
Well, that was part of it.
That was
the real reason.
Yeah.
I was driving their car.
Oh.
So I wanted to make sure that I was okay to stay there with their car there. And I wanted to let them know I'm staying here. We're not leaving.
Not driving.
We're just staying here, having a few drinks and just chilling at the house. It's not a big party. It's just a few people, just him and I sitting around having drinks, watching a movie. Nothing's going to happen. Your car's not going to go anywhere. Is that okay?
Yeah.
And that was because of the respect and the different things that my parents had taught me about it.
Yeah.
They never said no to me, nothing like no drinking. They said, if you're going to do it in specific ways, because they knew teenagers are going to do these things anyway.
Yeah.
But to try to tell your kids you just can't absolutely do this, give them reasons.
Yeah.
Give them understanding. Let them know that, yes, I did these things and it was a wrong decision for me to do them.
Right.
And you may make the same wrong decision, but try to make a better decision.
Yeah.
Because then you don't fall under this category of hypocrisy where you say, no, you can't do this as a teenager.
Right.
I mean, how many of us have in our family somebody who was pregnant as a teenager?
Totally.
Yeah. And then that person turns around and tries to tell their teenage kids not to have sex. I'm sorry, you really don't have a leg to stand on. And so you really have to watch yourself in this idea of that's where the hypocrisy takes root within the parents and the children. You teach your children, again, there's still rules they have to have for the legal situations of things. There's still things that children have to learn to do in time.
Yeah.
The language that they use, whatnot. But at the same time, if you're the parent, lead by example.
Yeah,
don't tell them. Don't do the whole. What's the phrase?
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
That's just there's not really a lot of room for it.
No, there's
I've never
not.
really found a lot of room for that. You hear it all the time as a kid,
and that's straight hypocrisy.
Yeah,
that's the base of it. And that's why it irritates me so much.
Well, it starts with, as far as I know, it starts with things that parents are legally allowed to do that children are not legally allowed to do, and then it segues itself into habits parents have that their kids aren't allowed to have, that illegal or not illegal. The problem is this is a respect issue. I consider it to be a respect issue.
A final real quick example of this. Real quick.
Yeah.
Okay, again, this coming from a parent to a non-parent.
Yeah.
When you go shopping at the grocery store, right? As you're buying all your various groceries, you got your list of stuff.
Yeah.
How many times do you see a snack that you want? Maybe a bag of chips, a candy bar that isn't on your list. It isn't, and I'm not talking like buying a big bag of candy if you're one of those people that stores candy.
Right.
Or like a bag of, one of the big bags of all the mini chips because you use them in your lunch.
Yeah.
I'm talking like you see something and it's an impulse buy of like, ooh, there's a snack. I want the snack.
Right.
How many times does that happen to you?
All the damn time.
Now, for all the parents that...
Why the impulse aisle is there.
Well, for the parents that are listening, when you take your kids to the store, how many times do you have that happen while your kids are at the store? Or do you not let it happen? Do you stop that from happening? Because then you have to indulge your kids in things that they want. I can take all three of my kids to the store, and I can take them shopping through the whole store and have no problems, no issues, no nothing. Do you know why?
Why?
Because they know ahead of time when we're going into the store that they each get to pick out one treat. Why do they get to pick out a treat? Because I would do it going to the store. Why shouldn't they have the ability to do it? Why should I not let them pick out a treat Because why? What's the reason? What is the real reason behind it? Now, I understand if you're on a budget, that's a reason. And then you can explain that.
You have to explain to them, hey, we can't afford to do it this time.
But that's also why you don't get yourself a treat.
Right.
But if you would go by yourself and get yourself a treat, when you take your kids, why wouldn't you let them get a treat? A treat they get to have the moment they get home. Not letting them have the treat.
That's a good one too. Wait until they get home.
Well, wait until they get home because they learn that process.
Behave for the car ride back, man.
But
and while they're there,
the whole point of it is, if you would do it for yourself, something like that, why wouldn't you let your kids do it? Not letting your kids do it, that's the hypocrisy because you've set two sets of rules. I can get a treat, but my kids can't. And that ties back in. That means you don't respect the humanity of your kids.
Right.
And if you do so, they're not going to respect your authority. But once you do respect them and understand that they're a person just like you who wants the same things and should be allowed to have within legal limits the same type of options and things.
Right.
That's where the respect comes, and that's where the hypocrisy dies.
Interesting.
So I'm hoping this will garner some comments, and maybe we can do a follow-up later for other people's opinions about respect and hypocrisy and things maybe we didn't touch on.
Yeah.
Because I think that while we had a little bit of a rant about it, I think there's a lot more in both aspects that we could discuss, but we are out of time.
Yes, we are. Hey, to everybody who's listening, if you guys have something to say about what we're talking about, please leave a comment. You can leave a comment on our Facebook page in relation to it. We'll be sharing these videos and these podcasts on our Facebook page, on Twitter. Reply to us on Twitter, at Xenchron for both of those profiles. That's at XENCHRON. You can hear the podcast itself on the XennialChronicles.com or Xenchron.com. You can also check out our YouTube page, which we will be linking. And we are building up subscribers actually on YouTube. And once we do that, I wanted to let people know, once we hit a certain amount, I believe it's a minimum 100, we can actually get a custom URL for our YouTube page. So that would be kind of cool to see youtube.com/Xenchron. So please share us with people. Like the videos once they come out. Comment on this stuff, man. We want to hear from you, so please do so.
That's what you mean by the URL page. I thought it was just somewhere we could pee.
Nope.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for listening, everybody, and hopefully you enjoy, and we will talk to you next time.
Thank you all.
Thank you for tuning in, friends. The journey continues next week.